Many countries are leaving the dollar. They're not going to leave the dollar with me. I'll say, you leave the dollar. You're not doing business with the United States.
President Donald Trump has made it clear that one of his top goals is to maintain the global dominance of the U.S. dollar.
I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war.
But in Trump's first 100 days, the greenback dropped nearly 10%.
I think the dollar is really going to drop another 15%, 20%.
According to a Reuters report, while the U.S. currency steadied somewhat in recent sessions, as investors took heart from a truce in the ongoing China-U.S. trade war, it came under renewed selling pressure after ratings agency Moody's cut the United States' sovereign credit rating by one notch. The dollar has already slid significantly against other major currencies, especially the Japanese yen and the euro. Many media and financial outlets now warn U.S. tariffs haven't just shaken global trade, they've also shaken global faith in U.S. assets. Is the world losing faith in the U.S. economy? U.S. tariff policy is testing the limits of global trust.
When you freak out markets, you pick fights with your friends, you escalate with the other largest economy in the world, you create uncertainty by announcing one thing on Monday, the opposite on Tuesday, then doubling down on Wednesday and inflating your numbers on Thursday. Nobody is able to make reasonable decisions about what they're going to do next week, let alone next year, let alone next decade.
The very foundation of the global financial system could shift. And when confidence cracks, privilege fades. Traditionally, the dollar would strengthen as tariffs sink demand for foreign products. But not this time. As Martin Wolf, chief economic commentator at the Financial Times, pointed out, if a ratio of trade to GDP will shrink, that itself would reduce the attraction of pegging one's currency against the US dollar. If America retreats behind its tariff wall and disengages from global trade, why should other countries keep using the US dollar? Back in the year 2000, more than 70% of global foreign exchange reserves were held in US dollar assets. By 2022, that number had slipped into the low 50% range, a steep decline in the dollar's share of global trust. U.S. tariffs could accelerate the dollar's decline as nations increasingly reassess their exposure to U.S. assets. The shift toward currency diversification is gaining speed. The Center for Economic Policy Research forecasts a multipolar currency world could emerge in the coming years. Signs of de-dollarization are already emerging, particularly in the commodities market, where energy transactions are increasingly priced in non-US dollar currencies. According to Natasha Kaneva, head of global commodities strategy at JP Morgan, Russia, the world's second largest exporter of oil, is selling its petroleum exports in the local currencies of its customers. Other producers might find themselves following suit. Financial institutions are also adjusting. According to the Financial Times, George Saravelos, global head of FX research at Deutsche Bank, noted that the market is rapidly de-dollarizing. At the same time, signs of broader instability are flashing red. The latest dollar sell-off has been accompanied by turmoil in both the U.S. stock and bond markets. When trust in the dollar fades, what's next for the American economy? Back in the 1960s, French finance minister Valéry Giscard d'Estaing famously warned that the U.S. dollar's reserve currency status handed Washington what he called an exorbitant privilege. That privilege, which amounts to cheap borrowing, global leverage, and unmatched monetary power, rests on a single foundation: trust. Global trust and reliance on the dollar was built up over half a century or more, says University of California, Berkeley economist Barry Eichengreen. But it can be lost in the blink of an eye.
You lose some of your what we call exorbitant privilege. Right now, the dollar pays almost all U.S. assets, but particularly public debt, but corporate debt too, probably pays 0.5% or 1% less than it would if the dollar wasn't the epicenter of everything.
The safe haven properties of the US dollar are being eroded, said Deutsche Bank. A more cautious note from Capital Economics followed. It is no longer hyperbole to say that the dollar's reserve status and broader dominant role is at least somewhat in question. The erosion of dollar dominance may not spark an immediate crisis, but it does signal a gradual shift, one where economic gravity no longer pulls solely toward Washington. What follows is not collapse, but recalibration, with the U.S. now navigating a landscape it no longer shapes alone.